Hi guys. Okay, so just to finish up what I was saying before, because I kind of talked about the whole immigration aspect of staying in the EU or leaving the EU. I just want to make two more really quick points about why you should vote to stay in. The thing is that you'll hear a lot in this rhetoric about Britain taking up its rightful place as a global trading power, taking up its rightful place on the world stage, putting the great back into Great Britain, renegotiating trade agreements with other EU member states, even though, you know, that would involve probably about 5 or 6 years of work, and a huge mess in the interim, and then some kind of like weird surreal fantasy of kind of rivaling China and America, and working hand in hand with our friends in the Commonwealth who actually really couldn't give a shit about us, and vice versa. All of this is fantasy, okay, because what you have to remember is that profit can only be generated at the expense of someone in a weaker position, okay? So it is entirely possible that Britain becomes an international powerhouse. It is, but you have to realise that this kind of dream of returning to the days of empire, albeit in an economic sense, will come at a cost, and that cost will be workers' wages here, the further decimation of any last shred of industry we've managed to claw back in. It's just not possible. If, again, like I said earlier, if you think that we're going to leave the EU and all of a sudden we're going to have some kind of magical new status as a financial success story, it is entirely possible. But remember who you're dealing with here. You're dealing with the Tories, and you're also dealing with a country that has repeatedly, over and over and over and over again, sought to assert its power and its financial gain by oppressing people, whether we're talking about people in the colonies or actually people here in our own countries, working class people who've worked in our industries. Child labour, even in this country, a century ago, which actually, when you think about it, is only 2 or 3 generations ago. So yeah, just think about the human costs that might involve. Just think about things like disability benefit cuts that we've seen, and just think how much worse it might get once the EU is stripped away from us and we're left kind of naked and bare, with nothing for them to hide behind, because the EU is a pretty handy smokescreen for them at the moment. Anything goes wrong, it's the EU, isn't it? Once that's stripped away, they're going to have to get more and more ruthless, and I'm honestly, to be honest, just fucking terrified about what a future of unbridled Tory power over this country, with no EU reining it back in, might look like. Sorry, I have to put my cardigan on. It's cold in Tory Britain. The other thing is that if you vote to stay in, there is a chance that we may potentially at some point get a Labour government. But if you vote to leave, David Cameron will be booted out, and I mean, we know that Cameron's bad enough as it is, but when we look at some of the people who are next in line to inherit that throne, I mean, it just makes the blood curdle, to be honest. So yeah, so basically, okay, I'm going to leave it at that because no one likes a rambler and I am a rambler. But yeah, just think about that. Think about the fact that, think about how Britain decided it actually didn't want to put any of the optional restrictions on new EU accession countries when it was more than given the opportunity to do so, and it was actually one of only 3 countries to not bother doing so. And think about the fact that someone is inevitably going to have to get fucked over if the UK does leave the EU and wants to take on some mental role as the new global superpower, which will never happen, but they'll try it anyway. They'll try it, and you will pay the price for that. So yeah, vote to stay.